I sat in my Seattle apartment, staring at the rain trickling down the window. 3 months had passed since my world turned upside down. The memories still haunted me, playing like a broken record in my mind. I remember that night clearly. The night I discovered my wife's betrayal. It was supposed to be a routine business trip to visit my parents' ranch. Sarah had declined to join me, citing work commitments. "I'm sorry, Jim," she'd said. "This project deadline is crucial." I believed her then, just like I'd believed everything else. But fate has a funny way of revealing truth. My father's health scare had cut the trip short, bringing me back to Manhattan 2 days early. I didn't tell Sarah I was coming home. Looking back, maybe some part of me already knew. The signs were there. The late nights at work, the new wardrobe, the distant looks. But love makes you blind, or perhaps just willing to be blind. I hired Wilson on my father's recommendation. Best in the business, Dad had said. Ex-FBI, knows how to be discreet. Wilson's first report landed on my desk within a week. The photos showed Sarah and Mike Anderson, her boss, at various restaurants. Intimate dinners, stolen kisses, secret meetings at high-end hotels. My stomach churned as I flipped through the evidence. 6 months of affair, meticulously documented. But Wilson had uncovered something else, something bigger. "Your wife's lover isn't just a cheater," he told me. "He's a fraud." Mike Anderson, the charming sales director, had been running a complex scheme. Millions of dollars funneled through fake companies. Corporate fraud on a massive scale. "We can use this," Wilson said, his eyes gleaming with strategic possibility. I didn't want revenge at first. I just wanted the truth. But the more I learned, the more my anger grew. Mike Anderson wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was destroying lives with his financial schemes. That's when I decided to play the long game. Wilson helped me set everything in motion. We gathered evidence, built our case piece by piece. The trap was elaborate but simple in its execution. First, we needed to catch them together. The restaurant was their favorite spot, Le Bernardin. They met there every month to celebrate their anniversary. Wilson's team had the place wired. Every table, every corner under surveillance. I watched through the live feed as they arrived. Sarah looked beautiful in her black dress. The same dress I'd bought her for our last anniversary. Mike wore his usual smug expression. They ordered wine, laughed, touched hands across the table. My hands clenched in a fist as I watched. But I forced myself to stay calm. Timing was everything. The desserts arrived right on schedule. 2 identical silver dome plates. Inside one, a joker card for Mike. Inside the other, my wedding ring for Sarah. Wilson approached their table exactly as planned. I watched their expressions change, from confusion to fear. The color drained from Sarah's face when she saw the ring. Mike tried to maintain his composure, but I could see him sweat. Wilson delivered my message perfectly. The divorce papers, the photos, the evidence of Mike's fraud. Everything laid out like pieces on a chessboard. Sarah's hands trembled as she read through the documents. Mike blustered and threatened, playing tough. But I could see the fear in his eyes. He knew we had him cornered. The first phase of my plan was complete. Now came the waiting game. I knew Mike would try to contact me. His type always does, thinking they can talk their way out of anything. The call came the next morning. "Listen, you little punk," he growled into the phone. I let him rant and threaten. His words meant nothing to me now. I had all the cards. The evidence of his fraud was already with the SEC. His gambling debts were exposed to his superiors. His entire house of cards was about to collapse. Sarah tried calling too. Dozens of missed calls, desperate voicemails. I listened to each one, feeling nothing but emptiness. The woman I loved was gone. Maybe she never really existed. The next few days unfolded exactly as planned. Mike's world began to crumble. The SEC launched their investigation. His gambling creditors started calling. Sarah was suspended from her job pending investigation. Everything they had built on lies was falling apart. I watched from a distance, letting justice take its course. Some nights I still dreamed of happier times. The day I met Sarah at that coffee shop. Our wedding day, full of promise and hope. The life we had planned together. But those dreams always ended the same way. With betrayal, with pain, with loss. Wilson kept me updated on their downfall. Mike was facing federal charges. Sarah had lost her job, her reputation in ruins. Their perfect little affair had cost them everything. I should have felt satisfaction, maybe even joy, but all I felt was tired. Tired of the lies, the pain, the games. I packed my bags and booked a flight to Seattle. A fresh start in a new city. Away from the memories, the betrayal. The rain kept falling outside my window. Seattle's constant drizzle matched my mood. But somewhere beneath the gray clouds, I knew there was still light, still hope for something better. I was to find it again. The first step was letting go of Sarah, of the pain of the past. The rain continued to fall, but for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The storm was passing, and I was ready to face whatever came next. My phone buzzed, another update from Wilson. Mike's trial was set to begin next month. Sarah had moved back in with her parents in Ohio. Their perfect little world had crumbled to dust. But I was already moving forward, one day at a time, one breath at a time, leaving the past where it belonged. Behind me, in the rear view mirror, fading like the Manhattan skyline. As I drove toward my new life, the rain finally stopped. A shaft of sunlight broke through the clouds. Maybe it was a sign. Maybe it was just Seattle being Seattle. Either way, I was ready to write my own story. Without Sarah, without the pain, without looking back. The future stretched out before me, unknown but full of possibility. And for the first time in months, I smiled, a real smile, not forced, not bitter, just me, starting over, one day at a time. The Seattle rain had become my constant companion. But today was different. Wilson's latest email demanded my attention. Mike's trying to make a deal with the prosecutors, he wrote. He's offering to testify against bigger players. I laughed bitterly at my laptop screen. Classic Mike Anderson, always looking for an escape route. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah's sister, Emma. She's miserable, Jim. Please talk to her. I left it unanswered, like all the others. Some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned. My new job at a tech startup kept me busy. Coding was simple, logical, predictable. Unlike people, unlike love, unlike betrayal. The office overlooked Puget Sound. Sometimes I'd watch the ferries cross the water, coming and going like the tide, like the life I'd left behind. My coworkers didn't know my story. Here, I was just Jim, the quiet software engineer from the East Coast. No one knew about Sarah, about Mike, about the elaborate revenge plot. And that's how I wanted it, until Claire from marketing changed everything. She had Sarah's smile, but her eyes held something different. Honesty, warmth, truth. We started with coffee breaks, then lunch meetings, then dinner. You're running from something, she said one evening. Over Thai food and wine. I almost denied it, almost fed her the practice lies. But something in her eyes made me pause. Yes, I admitted, I am. And so I told her everything. The affair, the investigation, the revenge. She listened without judgment. When I finished, she reached across the table. Her hand found mine. That's not who you are anymore, she said. Simple words, but they hit home. That night, I dreamed of Manhattan again, of Sarah and Mike at La Bernardine. But this time, the pain was different, duller, more distant, like an old scar rather than a fresh wound. Wilson's updates became less frequent. Mike had taken the plea deal, 5 years in federal prison, plus restitution of millions. Sarah had found a job teaching high school in Cleveland, a far cry from her corporate career. But maybe that was better. For both of us. Claire helped me see things differently. You can't change the past, she'd say, but you can choose how it shapes you. Wise words from someone who'd faced her own battles. Her divorce had been messier than mine, but she'd emerged stronger, more compassionate, more real. Spring came to Seattle. The rain gave way to sunshine. Cherry blossoms painted the streets pink. Life moved forward. One day, I deleted the folder marked evidence. All the photos, all the reports, all the pain, gone with a click. Wilson sent one final email. Case closed, he wrote. Time to move on. He was right. The revenge had been perfect. Justice had been served. But it hadn't healed me. That had to come from within, and from unexpected places. Like Claire's smile, like Seattle's rain, like the simple act of letting go. I started running along the waterfront, each step carrying me further. From the past, from the pain, from the person I used to be. Claire joined me sometimes. We'd watch the sunrise over the mountains, talk about everything and nothing, build something new, something real, something honest. The nightmares became less frequent. Sarah's face faded from my dreams, replaced by other memories, better ones, newer ones. One morning, I realized something. The revenge hadn't set me free. Forgiveness had. Not for Sarah, not for Mike, but for myself. For holding on to the pain for so long, for letting it define me. Claire understood. She'd been there herself. Sometimes, she said, the best revenge is moving on. She was right. As usual, the Seattle summer arrived, bringing light and warmth and possibilities. I took Claire to dinner at a small Italian place. Nothing like La Bernardine. Better, because it was real. We talked about the future, about hopes and dreams, about second chances and new beginnings. Later, walking along the waterfront, under stars and city lights, she took my hand, and I didn't pull away. The past was still there, but it no longer controlled me, no longer defined me. I was writing a new story now, with different characters, a different setting, a different ending. Wilson's last message sat unopened in my inbox. I deleted it without reading. Some chapters need to stay closed, so new ones can begin. Claire squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. The Seattle night wrapped around us, full of promise, full of possibility, full of life, moving forward, one step at a time, and whatever came next, together. The autumn leaves danced across Seattle's streets. 1 year had passed since I'd left Manhattan, since the revenge plot had unfolded, since my old life had crumbled. Claire and I moved in together in September. A cozy apartment overlooking Lake Union, far from the ghosts of my past. Or so I thought, until the wedding invitation arrived. Emma was getting married. Sarah would be there. My hands trembled as I read the card. Claire found me staring at it. You don't have to go, she said softly. But maybe I did. Maybe it was time. The flight to Ohio felt longer than usual. Claire's hand steady in mine. As we descended into Cleveland, into the past I'd tried to escape. The hotel was filled with familiar faces, old friends, family members, people who knew our story. Their whispers followed us. That's Jim, Sarah's ex, the one who exposed everything. Claire held my head high, her presence my anchor, in this storm of memories. Then I saw her, Sarah, standing by the hotel bar. Our eyes met across the room. Time seemed to freeze. She looked different, older, sadder, wiser perhaps. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by something simpler, more honest, like the person she might have been before Mike, before the affair, before everything fell apart. She started walking toward us, each step echoing in my ears. Claire squeezed my hand, offering silent support. Jim, Sarah said softly. Hello, Sarah. Simple words, heavy with history. Can we talk? She asked. Claire nodded, understanding. I'll be at the bar, she said, leaving us to face our past. We found a quiet corner, away from curious eyes. Sarah spoke first. I'm sorry, she said. Words I'd waited years to hear. For everything. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Mike's in prison, she continued. I know. I was such a fool. We both were. Silence stretched between us, full of unspoken words, regrets and memories. Are you happy? She asked, looking at Claire across the room. Yes, I said, finally finding my voice. I am. Tears filled her eyes. Good, she whispered. You deserve to be. More silence, but different now. Lighter, like clouds clearing after rain. I'm teaching now, she said. High school English. Do you like it? More than I ever liked corporate life. A small smile. Genuine. Unlike her old practiced ones. The kids keep me honest. We talk for a while longer. About nothing important. And everything that mattered. The weight of the past. Lifting with each word. Until finally it was time. Take care, Jim. You too, Sarah. Simple goodbyes, but meaningful ones. Claire was waiting at the bar, her smile warming my heart. Okay, she asked. Better than okay. The wedding was beautiful. Emma, radiant in white. Life moving forward, as it always does. Later, dancing with Claire. Under twinkling lights, I realized something. The revenge hadn't been the end. It had been the beginning of healing, of growth, of finding myself again. Sarah left early. A quiet exit. No dramatic goodbyes. Just a small wave and a genuine smile. The next morning, flying back to Seattle, Claire asleep on my shoulder. I thought about closure, how it comes in unexpected ways, not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments, in simple conversations, in letting go. The Seattle rain welcomed us home, familiar and comforting now, like an old friend. Claire unpacked while I checked emails. One from Wilson caught my eye. Mike's appeal was denied. I deleted it without responding. That chapter was truly closed now. Claire found me on the balcony, watching the sunset over THE lake. Home, she asked. Home, I agreed, pulling her close. The future stretched before us, clear and bright, like the Seattle sky after rain. No more looking back, no more revenge, just life, moving forward, one day at a time, with love, with hope, with truth, and